I'm going to get right to it because I know your time is short. You're winning, according to most of the polls. But the Democrats, according to a new report just today in Axios, haven't given up on this race. Then they're feeling cautiously optimistic that they can defeat you, according to Axios, based on, quote, a wave of negative ads about the combat record of yours, Tim Sheehy. Okay, so let's get to it so the audience knows what we're talking about. They are alleging that you lied about being shot when you were serving our country, which you did honorably in Iraq and Afghanistan, and you received a Purple Heart and you received a Bronze Star, that you said you received a gunshot wound to the arm over there, not for stolen valor. This isn't one of those things, but that, in fact, you received it in a state park when your gun dropped and you shot yourself in the arm, and they have a park ranger who swears you told her that, and that you just made up having taken a bullet in the arm when you were actually serving the country. So what's the truth?
Yeah, well, I mean, their entire campaign against me has been based on character assassination. I mean, that's all it's been since the beginning, because John Tester's been a rubber stamp for Biden-Harris the entire time they've been in office, voted to impeach Trump twice, has consistently put America first policies, America last every single time. And, every time he's run, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars in this state, and they have one playbook, and that is to literally just smear the opponent to the point where they're unrecognizable. And they're doing the same thing to me. And of course, John Tester loves to pose as a friend of veterans. Well, the first time ever he's run against a veteran, all they've been focused on is trying to shred my military record. And of course, I have letters and statements signed by dozens of folks that serve with me saying, my military service was honorable, was fantastic, was a good leader, was a great teammate. And the truth is, during an insurgency war like we were fighting Afghanistan for 20 years, insurgency is messy. And, one of the most challenging parts we had as SEAL teams over my several deployments was we would have Afghan forces embedded with us. And that means you're fighting not always alongside just a bunch of highly trained Navy SEALs. Much of the time, you are outnumbered by your own friendly partner force, sometimes 10 to 1, sometimes 20 to 1. You'll have hundreds of Afghans that you're responsible for training and then putting into combat. And we call those green on blue incidents, which actually were very, very common, where you'd have Afghans who either intentionally or unintentionally would end up shooting friendly forces. Sometimes they just put their weapons on full auto and start shooting in whatever direction they felt like. So it was a hazardous environment where we're dealing with, of course, actual hostile forces who were fighting Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Haqqani Network, et cetera. But half the time, we've also got to have one eyeball looking at our partner forces. And, when those incidents would happen, everyone remembers, the Pat Tillman incident, unfortunately, very, very clearly, where it was a tragedy, where Pat was killed by friendly fire. And of course, that investigation ensues and ends up destroying an entire command because they tear everything apart, investigate everybody all day long, every day. And even if the investigation proves nothing happened, the way the military works, as you well know, those investigations stick with those people for the rest of their lives and their career, and oftentimes end those careers. And in fact, our task force, that deployment, had one of those incidents, that ended up being a career ender for a lot of guys. So, as a team commander, you want to keep your team intact. We were at about half strength at this point in our deployment. We'd had many teammates wounded and sent home. And me as the team commander, there was no position to be carted off the battlefield. Many of us were injured multiple times. We don't report that simply because we're going to stay in the fight, stay with our team. We're going to finish our deployment and do our job. So unless those injuries are life-threatening, of course, if you've lost a limb like some of our teammates had, or there's a severe injury, you're going to deal with that because that person has to be cared for. But otherwise, you just keep on moving. So it's unfortunate they decided to make this a focal point because it's a distraction. But that's what their entire campaign is about. It's about distractions because they can't focus on the issues that John Tester's a loyal Chuck Schumer vote every single time.
So just to be clear, did you shoot yourself in the arm?
No, that was never the allegation. The point is, it was a friendly fire ricochet downrange that wasn't reported at the time. And after having
but they're saying, just so I'm clear, they're saying, and I don't want to harp on this, I just want to give you the chance to explain yourself because this is their closing message. It's all about this incident. So if voters are confused, you're going to explain it to them. They're saying that you were in a park, Glacier Park, that you dropped your weapon, that it went off inadvertently and it shot you in the arm, and that there's a park ranger saying she spoke to you about that. And it looks like you spoke to the Washington Post and you said that you lied when you told the park ranger about this. So which is it? Like, did you shoot yourself in the arm inadvertently in Glacier Park?
No, we've discussed this at length, repeatedly with every media outlet for the last year. It's been beat to death. The point was, at the time, I was injured and went to the hospital. They required a police report because any gunshot wound requires a police report of any kind. And they said, we have to file this. We have to report this to law enforcement. And still having active team members, in the service who were involved in it at that time, I simply said, well, this is an old wound. They said, no, we have to report this as a gunshot wound, to law enforcement. So, I said, well, okay, fine. It was an accident. Even the Sportsman's Root Sports Shooting Foundations have even said it's literally impossible to have that happen. It wouldn't work.
But
and a weapon of that size
had
it happen.
Did you have a wound,
No.
Tim, in the park?
No. Yes, I fell and injured my arm when we were hiking. So that's why I went, because I could feel the bullet get dislodged when I fell on the arm. You could feel the bullet get dislodged, and then went to the ER to say, hey, look, I've got internal bleeding going on here. I've injured my arm. Can you take a look at this? Make sure there's nothing serious going on here. And then,
are there
as
medical
a result,
records where the ER can say we did not treat a gunshot wound?
Well, there isn't. I mean, that's the point. You go in, you check on it, and you leave. There's not an extensive medical record for any of this stuff. And unfortunately, that's the crux of this, is there's just not a whole lot to talk about. They've decided to take this one report from a park ranger that I gave him that report. I stood in the parking lot, said, hey, this is what happened, and 5 minutes, we go on our way. And they've decided to make that, the focal point of all this.
So confusing. This park ranger doesn't seem to be a Republican. Kim Peach is her name. She once mocked former President Donald Trump.
It's a guy.
I guess it's a him. Okay, his name is Kim. He once mocked Donald Trump. So I understand. And then you had a lot of Navy SEALs come out and say, you're the picture of integrity. This is such BS. And that those who are attacking you have defined their post-military lives, because there's another guy, by criticizing the SEAL community. So look, I think the bottom line is, people are trying to figure out what's going to happen with Montana in this race, and they're going to look at you on the issues. And there is a big delta between you and your opponent. This year, supply chain issues have been more prevalent than ever. Whether it's the result of natural disasters like Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton, global conflict, or inflation, the impacts are being felt everywhere. While they sometimes are a minor inconvenience, delays in accessing essential medications can become catastrophic. The U.S. relies on overseas sources for more than 80% of its generic medications. So what happens when there are delays? Or what if supplies are cut off? How will you care for your loved ones and yourself? The Jace case offers peace of mind for you and your family in the face of delays, shortages, and disasters. This is an emergency medication kit containing 5 life-saving antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. Simply complete a quick online evaluation to ensure you're prepared. The Jace case can also be customized with add-ons like ivermectin, EpiPens, and more. Don't wait. Consider preparing right now. Receive a discount on your Jace case by visiting jase.com and entering promo code MK at checkout. That's promo code MK at jase.com, ensuring you have the right medications exactly when you need them. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.